The global economy is not doing well during this time. All the countries are facing challenges. Even China, they are talking about economic bubbles. How about India? What direction is it moving? Can it continue to keep the momentum of economic growth, at this high level?
Well, India has also slowed down. So, but it hasn't slowed down as much as the others have, which is the difference because its economy is more insulated because our foreign trade is a very small part of our GDP. So it handles the buffeting well, but it doesn't also partake in this huge growth, which expansion which took place as much as it could have done. So I think there are pros and cons for it. So right now we are doing 5.5% nominal GDP growth, and then we have a deflation because of commodity prices all over the world have come down. So it helps us show a figure of about 7.5%. Having said that, there are problems in creating jobs. We are having a million people enter our workforce every month.
Every month?
Every month, and we need jobs for them. And it becomes very difficult because you have to make huge capital investments, and investment is slowed down from all over the world. Capital investment is slowed down, not only in India, but elsewhere. More, and we're relying on foreign funds to come. That's also slowed down. So, we're waiting. So the world situation must improve before we take the next leap forward.
Are Indian companies willing to make the investment, or are they also in some difficult shape?
Because Indian companies are also, we've had 2 years of slowdown in profits. So, the surpluses to reinvest are also low. And the economy is also slowed down. So, many of them are cautious at this moment, lying low to see. Because, you need a mood of optimism. When the world is not optimistic, you can't suddenly sit in one corner and say, I'm optimistic, and therefore... so, we're waiting for the world mood also to improve.
Okay. Will the slowdown in the economy have any impact on the external side, external account? Because India has been running current account deficit for quite some time, and that also translates into pressures on the rupee currency.
Current account deficit is under control, partly because imports have slowed down because prices have come down, and then repatriations are still taking place. Remittances come from the Middle East and from America. So the American end is the service end, which is holding well. There's 50% of our remittances come from there, and the Middle Eastern remittances, labor remittances, which has slowed down a bit. But all those countries also need Indian labor. They can't really shut shop and go. So I think that is under control also. But we could have done more in terms of remittances. That has slowed down. But overall current account deficit under control, 1.3%, is pretty good.
India is one of the major consumers of gold. I've heard that the Indians have been accumulating gold, over the past years, anticipating its rise. Or will it in the future play any role, in the government?
Accumulating gold forever. Last year we imported 900 tons. So we keep importing that kind of gold because there is a tradition.
In spite of government restrictions?
They're not government restrictions, it's free trade. So gold can come and there is a little bit of...
But they have imposed higher taxes on it.
There is, but not very high, not like we used to have before. At one time gold import was banned. Now we have a marginal 5 to 8% tax on that. So that is not enough to slow down because there is a tradition of having gold in the Indian homes. It's, reflected in how the family's traditions are, value systems are. So,
but then the pace of gold hoard is quite hectic, in recent years.
Not because a lot of Indian gold doesn't come back into the market. It is gold which just goes into the ground. So hoarding of gold is a social habit. It's different from. So that's why the government has got schemes to monetize that gold by offering to store the gold in its vaults. So, if I have a kilo of gold, I can actually give it to the government and get some interest on it. So that scheme has just started. And it's quite interesting. It's going to do quite well.
Oh, I see.
So, so there are schemes of getting the gold.
So the gold goes to the government or to the Reserve Bank of India?
It goes to the government vault, and from the government vault, it'll be remonetized and, it'll be used as security to generate more money. So, so there are all kinds of instruments at work now. And
is it also part of the monetary management? Is it a kind of gold standard here?
It is not a gold standard. It's a gold monetization scheme, we call it, because if gold sitting in the ground is useless. And, so the gold goes to work for you, but sitting in a bank. The bank then uses it to generate more cash and credit, So that's the logic here.
Okay. And this helps adding further liquidity into the economy.
It adds growth to it. There's a multiplier effect to it. So that's why we're saying making gold work. This is the new scheme, to make gold work rather than sit idle. Because money, gold and all which sits idle is wasteful. So you've got to go out and work like you and I have to go out and work.
So how do you see the Indian economy moving 5 years from now or 10 years from now?
The Indian economy is, by 2025, is going to be almost 10 trillion. So it's growing. Yeah, it's growing. So in the last 10...
What's the ranking in the global terms?
In global terms, it will be number 3 in real terms. Okay. But in PPP terms, it will be number 2. We could even go past the US. So, but that doesn't mean anything because per capita incomes will be low relatively, just like China's. But I think India and China will be the dominant economies in size, say, by another 25 years from now. So this is a period of high growth because there's the demographic transition, there's an economic takeoff taking place, there's expansion. Now, increasingly, the world GDP expansion is coming from India. Last year was 5% of total expansion of world GDP has come from India. So that will increase. And China's role in expansion is decreasing. So India is going to see the biggest expansion of the middle class in the next 30 years, which the world has ever seen. 180 million families are going to come into the middle class.
Quite a revolution.
It is going to be a major transition. So the demand on world resources, the demand on oil, the demand on energy, the demand on climate, the demand on sustainability, all that is challenged now. So we have to work very carefully. Already there are signs of fraying in India's infrastructure. The roads are not enough, electricity is inefficient usage, and so all that has to be sorted out.
Thank you very much for your comment.